Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is DeAndre Harris.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Austin Wall.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kieyuana Gloster, and the title of my speech tonight is Why High School Seniors Should Not Have to Take Standardized Exams. When was the last time you heard about high school students graduating based on their GPA and having a correct amount of required credits? Never. In the United States, most high school seniors are required to take a standardized test in order for them to graduate from high school. Most students who take standardized tests fail to pass these kind of exams. Even students who have a high GPA of a 4.0 cannot pass this exam. The rate of stress and anxiety levels on students has increased immensely. For example, according to a segment on Eyewitness News by Courtney Zeeler and Olivia Lank, for some students, standardized testing is causing a lot of stress and anxiety because they're constantly studying. To name a few, they are as follows: Florida Students Assessment, Georgia Milestone Assessment, PSAT, SAT, and SAT, etc.
Standardized test scores are easily influenced by outside factors: stress, hunger, tiredness, and prior teaching or parent confidence about the difficulty of the test, among other factors. In short, the tests only show which students are best at preparing for and taking the test, not what knowledge students might exhibit if their stomachs weren't empty. External stereotypes also play a part in scores. Research indicates that being targeted by well-known stereotypes, blacks are unintelligent, Latinos perform poorly on tests, girls can't do math, and so on, can be threatening to students in profound ways, a predicament they call stereotype threat. Students are tested on grade-appropriate material, but they are not retested to determine if they learned information they test poorly on the year before. Instead, as Steve Martinez, superintendent of Twin Rivers Unified in California, and Rick Miller, executive director of core districts, note, each state currently reports yearly change by comparing the scores of this year's students against the scores of last year's students who were in the same grade. Even though educators, parents, and policymakers might think change signal impacts, it says much about the change in which students are because it is not measuring the growth of the same student from one year to the next. Further, because each state develops its own tests, standardized tests are not necessarily comparable across state lines, leaving nationwide statistics shaky at best. Brandon Boosted, Executive Director, Education and Workforce Development at the time of the quote, stated, "Despite an increased focus on standardized testing, U.S. results in international comparisons show that we have made no significant improvement over the past 20 years. According to the Program for International Student Assessment, the U.S. most recently ranked 23rd, 39th, and 25th in the reading, math, and science, respectively. The last time Americans celebrated being 23rd, 39th, and 25th in anything well was never. Our focus on standardized testing hasn't helped us improve our results." But Boosted asks, what if our over-reliance on standardized testing has actually inhibited our ability to help students succeed and achieve a multitude of dimensions? For example, how effective are schools at identifying education students with high entrepreneurial talent, or a training students to apply creative thinking to solve messy and complex issues with no easy answers? Standardized test scores are not predictors of future success. Grade point averages are 5 times stronger indicators of college success than standardized tests. According to the study of 55,084 Chicago public students, one of the authors, Eli M. Allensworth, PhD, Lewis Sabrin, Director of University of Chicago, stated GPAs measure a very wide variety of skills and behaviors that are needed for success in college, where students will encounter wide varying content and expectations. In contrast, standardized tests measure only a small set of skills that students need to succeed in college, and students prepare for these tests in narrow ways that may not translate into better preparation to succeed in college. Matthew M. Chingos, PhD, Vice President of Education Data and Policy of Urban Institute, explained, earning good grades requires consistent behaviors over time, showing up to class, participating, turning in assignments, taking quiz, etc. Whereas students could, in theory, do well on tests even if they do not have the motivation, perseverance needed to achieve good grades. It seems likely that these kind of high school habits are captured most relevant for success in college than for a single test. Standardized tests can only be at best evaluate rote knowledge of math, science, and English. These tests do not evaluate creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, artistic ability, or other knowledgeable areas that cannot be judged by scoring sheets of bubbles filled in with a pencil.
Thank you, Austin. There is a large variation between one student to the next. One student may be the class projected valedictorian and fail a test, whereas another student who may not have had the best grades excel on that same test. By creating a general test for all students, this does not measure the individual student's full potential. One's entire potential career should not rely solely on one test of everything retained over the course of 4 years. Lastly, I'll leave you with this. The price of stress should not be the inability to culminate one's high school career. The value of one's education is priceless, and to base a student's entire career on one test, all the long nights, the mountains of assignments, the day in and day out of attending school every day just to take one test for one grade is absolutely absurd. In the words of Albert Einstein, if you judge a fish by its inability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. My name is DeAndre Harris. Sorry.
And I'm Kieyuana Gloster.
My name is Austin Wall.
And y'all have a good night.